Welcome to another day and another dose of Did You Know? And today I have an amazing guest, David, who was just telling me about his adventures of moving recently and all about Kansas. Brought back memories of my childhood that I totally thought I had forgotten. How are you today, David?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. And tell me a little bit, because I'm getting to know you. I don't know you as well as I do some of my other guests sometimes, which is kind of fun. I love when it's like a stranger I'm talking to. So, little side note while I'm doing this is if I ever ask anything or go a little too deep, you just tell me to back up the bus and I'll be like, okay, we're moving on. Just so you know, I forgot to give you that disclosure before we started here. But tell everybody, who is David?
So David is a number of things. So I've been in technology for a lot of my career, about 30 years, but music has always been one of my focus areas. And the last 2 years, I decided to jump off the cliff and just really focus on music 100%. I've been singing professionally and writing semi-professionally for about 20 years, and now been just completely focused on it for the last going on 3 years now.
Okay, well, those are like two different, like technology. You don't even, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. We could have a conversation. I would just smile and nod. That is not my jam. So what makes you go from technology to like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to focus on my music. Because to me, that's like two separate sides of the brain.
You would think so, but it's actually the same side of the brain. There's a lot of people in technology that are also into music. Music is very much math-based if you think about it. You got rhythms, you got beats, your counts, right? And so if you are mathematically inclined, you probably are musically inclined as well.
Oh, well, there's the hidden secret of CoachDAni. Not at all. Which I come from music. Like my dad plays guitar and my brother played the trumpet and I played the flute for like a small bit, but it was just never my knack. But neither is math. So there we go. Lesson learned. I learned something.
There you go.
So what made you, so you're now in Colorado. What made you take the plunge to go to Colorado?
Well, I owned a house here. I lived here. I've been here for, 17 years. And so I still own my house, and my kids and my then wife are still here and living in the house, and decided that, it was time to come back. I was missing my family. I was missing, my kids.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of great contacts out in Tennessee. This whole COVID thing hit. Every single gig that I had booked was unbooked very quickly. And so I just made more sense to kind of, let's bring the blood to the core and kind of, get in survival mode and see how much this hunker down is going to take.
It's a perfect time. You could, that's what I found with this whole COVID and being forced into quarantine and all this crazy stuff is that for some people, it's really made you like just flip the switch. Something that maybe you've been thinking on, but you haven't really acted on. It's like, well, no better time than now to do it. And am I putting words in your mouth?
Right.
That's what it kind of sounded like.
No, I mean, you can't see my studio here, but I finally got this studio set up after having this equipment for 5 years. So yeah, this whole hunker down thing got me in gear to put my gear to work.
Yeah.
So now I can go live and do quality, broadcast quality music.
That's pretty cool. So how did you balance your tech world and your music world when you were down in Tennessee? Because those two seems like two full-time jobs.
They are. They can be. So the tech side, I was doing a lot of consulting over the phone. I would consult with private equity firms, with venture capitalists, with very large institutional investors on particular markets that I've been in for the last 30 years, which is data protection, disaster recovery. And so I would talk with them about trends in the market, companies that they were looking at investing in and providing my professional opinion. And so that's one way. And then it's almost, when you're done with that, you kind of get on a high. And when you have to shift over to music, it takes me a little bit to kind of unplug from the technical side and then start getting more on that creative side, where I'm writing music and I'm performing. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you that both sides for me is all about performance, because the roles that I held, I was the chief evangelist for a number of different companies. And as the chief evangelist, I was the one on stage presenting and engaging. And so there's not a whole big stretch for me, because I was, not to sound arrogant, but I was born to be on stage. And so when I put a guitar on or I'm up there, talking trends, it's performance to me.
No, that totally makes sense, because I tell people, like, I have the most eclectic business ever. When you look at it in different pieces, kind of like your technology and your music, it makes zero sense to people at all. Here you are working with the military, and then you're doing these interviews, and oh yeah, by the way, you design life insurance to protect, like, where the heck did that all related of the core of me, of who I am, of serving and protecting and connecting and all of those things. So that makes complete sense to me, that your core was how you performed in each aspect of what you did. Yeah. Somebody else. Right. Gosh, thank you. Yeah. I don't feel so crazy.
Another thing I didn't tell you, but you mentioned military, and I should bring this up. But I also, with my nephew and his wife, my niece, we co-founded a nonprofit called Colorado Wounded Vet Run. So I'm still on the board of directors. And what we do is we raise money, we do different events, and we provide assistance to a couple of honorees a year for whatever they need. Pay bills, get a ramp put in, get their house modified so their wheelchair can get through, or get their prosthetics that they need. And that's a fun project. And talk about serving. I mean, you look at these guys and gals that come back, it's like, whoa, pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah. Last year at my show, and last year we had one of our honorees at my tribute show that we did last year in Colorado. And his name is Joe Fowler, great guy. And I said, Joe, would you like to come out on stage? And when I introduce you, he's like, well, I don't know. He goes, how about I come out on stage after you do Ring of Fire? Because I'm the burn guy. Because his hands were burned from, Iraq. Great sense of humor. The guy has just embraced where he's at. And so when I got done with Ring of Fire, I said, I got to introduce our honoree, Joe Fowler. He's the burn guy. He wanted to come out after Ring of Fire, and he came out. It was really cool, man. It was so neat.
That is so cool, man. That gives me chills when because that shows quite. Most people, let me go back in my train of thought here. Most people, when they have like an issue or, a tragedy, what they perceive as a tragedy or a challenge, they can really sinker and hunker down into themselves. And when you can experience someone who's kind of, because we all go through that. I mean, we don't just come out on the other side, but has come out and really embraced, and they're, let go of any anger or, regret or anything. And is just like, can laugh and enjoy life again. That's pretty darn cool. Plus being like anything where I feel like there's music and on stage and is live, that just takes the energy to a whole different level of very coolness. What also another thing, which now getting to know you makes a lot of sense, because you have your own music that you write and you sing, but you also are part of your band that is a Johnny Cash tribute band. I don't know if I'm saying this right, so correct me if I get my verbiage wrong here. And then I was thinking, I didn't realize, and maybe it's my ignorance, that I thought most people, if they had a tribute band, that's all they did. And maybe that's true, and you're unique. I don't know.
I think some people do a tribute band. That's all. That's what they do. But I've written so many songs, and a lot of songs. When I first started, in the first album we did an album called Borrowed Cash, and it had a title track on there called Borrowed Cash, which was a song that I wrote. And it was a song about me. The first line of that song says, I got my first guitar when I was 4 years old. And I got my first guitar when I was 4 years old. And what I wanted more than anything was have a string on that guitar so I could hang it on my back and be like Johnny Cash. And so it goes into that whole kind of storyline of everyone that sings Johnny Cash songs. When we're on stage, we ought to be thinking we're living on borrowed cash. And that's where that whole song came from.
I got you.
I write a lot of different songs. So I've gone through a lot of pain over the last 18 months. And so that's really developed a lot of, ideas for songs and songs that I've finished. We did a second album called The Storyteller, which had not all of those songs, but some of those songs on there. And then there's a third album that we were going to be working on, which was going to be a David Chapa album. So a pure Americana, not necessarily Johnny Cash, but all original music. And of course, this thing hit, and we can't do it. But we're going to try. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to do this remotely. So from my studio, I'll be recording vocals and guitar, and I'll send those tracks over to Wes out in Jackson, Tennessee, and we'll see if we can make some studio magic from 1,000 miles apart.
I think you can. I think all you need is that entrepreneurial mindset, right? You got to have the motivation and the technology. Boom, it'll happen. It might be a little harder, but it'll definitely happen. So what is that 18 months of maybe pain, suffering, struggle, indifference? What was that about?
Well, that was that had to do with some family things, and I won't go too much into it. But relationships and hurt, a lot of pain, and just struggle to kind of find out who you are, right?
Yeah.
For me, to find out who I am, and I'm still doing that, going through this process.
It's funny that you bring that up, because yesterday I was talking with my daughter. It was Mother's Day, if you didn't know, And so the kids were here. So we have 6 kids, and we had 4 of them here. So that's a pretty good number. I'm always like, if we can get over half, we're doing good.
That's good.
But she was talking about, because we had a lot be coming on a 2-year anniversary here in the next couple months, where our family was torn apart. Our my brothers and my father started losing his mind for a couple years, and we ran the business, and our stepmom was kind of like that typical evil stepmom. She pounced in, started, basically poisoning him.
Wow, yeah.
And he totally turned his back on his children and his grandchildren. Like, done. It was, that's the nicest way for me to say this. And she was saying to me yesterday, she's like, Mom, how do you not hold anger? Or how do you get through this? Or do you even think of them? Because they live like 10 minutes from us. I could pass by their house if I wanted to. And the business that my brother and I ran for so long. And I said to her, I think of my father every single day. I miss my father every single day, but I have a choice to be sad or angry or not. And it sounds so simple, because saying not is my choice, but that doesn't mean I don't go through points of sadness and complete anger and like rage, but I said, the more times that you focus on where you want to be, the less of that hurt is. So now I can think of my father and not feel hurt. I haven't gotten there with my stepmom, to be honest, and not that that's happened to you, but it's funny that you bring that up. And it just made me start really thinking that so many of us go through some sort of challenge like that. And maybe when you have a creative outlet like music, or you find something, does it make it easier to kind of go through that? Or
man, I tell you, maybe it does. Some of the songs that I've written, I couldn't record them for days and days and days, because I would start crying through them. So, but then you get to a point where you can sing the song, you can get through it, and you can record it. And the good news about that is, people, when they hear you perform that song, they can hear the pain, they can feel the pain, they can feel that emotion. but I think it probably makes it easier. And I think sometimes when you write songs about a situation or a person, I think that also you got to be careful, because it can hurt the other person,
Right.
But sometimes when you're just, from your perspective, when you see things and you're kind of defining those things from the way that you see them and the way they came down, sometimes that the truth really is, as they say, the truth hurts. Sometimes that truth really does hurt. Mm-hmm. And you have to make a decision. So do I let that song go out? Do I keep it in the back pocket? And I haven't decided on some of those yet. I've got a couple of them that are still in the back pocket, but so.
Yeah, I think we know, right? Because as I always told her, I said, you never forget what happens to you.
Right.
It just doesn't cause you pain anymore. So those ones that are in the back pocket, you will know when the right time is there. Because there's some times that I can't, you're right, like I can't talk about certain things. Well, pretty much now I can talk about anything, but there've been times in life where I haven't, or I have. And okay, does this happen? Because this has happened to me, because I speak on pretty openly about my life and what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I don't ever mention names or even mention if it's a guy or a girl. I'll just say a situation, and things like that. Now, there have been many times that I've spoken, and maybe you can do this with your writing, and people will come back at me and be like, just because you have a voice doesn't mean you can do it. And I'm like, that wasn't even about you. Like that you weren't even in my forefront of my mind. And has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, the first song that comes to my mind, that one line, "You're so vain, you probably think the song is about you."
Yes.
Yes. And that's what's, it's funny too, because, some songs, when you write some songs, they're going to hit people differently and affect people differently. And some people that are close to you will think, "Oh my gosh, you wrote that song about me." No, I didn't write the song about you, but why do you think I wrote that song about you? What are you not telling me?
That's actually a great line. Why do you think that was about you? Because maybe there's something underlying I need to know about.
Exactly.
So you're on a new path here. Time always goes by fast when I'm having a good time. I look down at my little clock and I'm like, what the heck? How did we already talk for, 18 minutes here? But when I always ask people, and I just started doing this because about like, what's your favorite song, or a song that you want, that hits home to you? Because I think music shows a lot about who we are. Although people ask me that, and it could change by the mood I'm in. You know what I mean? You could get some hardcore, like, what is it? 5 Finger Death Punch one day, and the next time I'm listening to Garth Brooks. So it's really about like the mood for me. But your song I had never heard before, and I'm listening to it to put on my story, because I always do like the prep, and I put that story on. And I was like, huh, okay. But I was listening to the words. So tell me about that song.
Saw you with another, made me lose my mind. Shot you with my 38, now I'm doing time. You put me there.
That was exactly it. I was like, huh, are you better, or do you just like it?
I like that song. So Johnny Cash, he that song was written by Marty Robbins. So Marty Robbins, who wrote El Paso, very much that ballad type singer. And he wrote this song, and Johnny Cash recorded it in 1972 and was on his album, this thing called Love. Johnny Cash always looked for these love songs that had a little bit of darkness to them. And Kate is one of those. Delia is another one of those. And even, Folsom Prison can be not necessarily a love song, but it's got some darkness to it, right? Shot a man just to watch him die. So Kate was one of those songs that Johnny looked for, and And I thought it was, for me, I saw the humor in it that was on the album, this thing called Love, and the song about Kate. But a lot of his stuff, those songs he picked out were kind of this, dark humor, love type songs. And I think that song also, if people listen to that song, I think it also you can let it hit home too, because how often do we blame other people for the situations and things we got ourselves into, right? I know I've done that. I continue to do that, and I'm working on, getting out of that phase. But, that line in there, I saw you with another, made me lose my mind, shot you with my 38, now I'm doing time, and you put me here. Kate, you put me here. There's no two ways about it. You put me here. Blaming everything on the woman, right? Same thing Adam did. It was her. So, I think that we can learn a lot from these songs, while they're humorous and maybe a little dark. It's also a lot of humanity in the songs as well.
Yeah, a lot of truth.
Anyway, didn't mean to get on soapbox there.
That's good, because obviously that made me question it, because I had to get that in there. Like, how did you pick this song? So now I get it. Totally understand it. I'm so on board with you. It's deeper than just the words.
I'm not a psycho. That's right.
Yeah. No, Michelle would never connect me with a psycho. But that is actually, speaking of Michelle, shout out to Michelle Baxter out there. You guys wrote a song together, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Did. She actually posted on Facebook a status, and I read it, and I said, "Hey, you mind if I take that and try and write a song out of it? If I write a song, I'll give you 50% writing credit." She's like, "Go for it." So I wrote a song called "Sun Will Be All Right," and used a lot of the structure from her Facebook status, but injected a lot of my things as well. And it's about taking a new journey. And it was right before I left for Tennessee. I wrote this down here. I'm in my studio, but I just wrote it in my basement over here on the bar. And and then we recorded on the Storyteller, the second album, and it's one of my favorite songs. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So you wrote that when you left Colorado, and now I'm talking about it when you're back in Colorado.
Right, exactly. About 50 feet from where I wrote it. Right.
Oh, that is.
Yeah. And I don't write songs with other people. I struggle with writing with other people. Sorry to interrupt you, but it was taking her words and then being able to kind of inject some of my own things, and talking about God the Father and God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, and just this is the crew I'm running with that's going to help me get down the line. And you can come if you want. The road's going to be bumpy. And if it's too much for you to handle, then step aside, because I'm going with this crew. And that's kind of what that song's about. And it's just God saying, "Son, it's going to be all right."
Oh, and what album did you say that was on?
The second album, called The Storyteller.
The Storyteller. All right, got it. Got it right here.
And that's it.
Actually, I'll probably text
the title
later, being like, "What was up with them?" I forgot.
And there's a song on that album called Storyteller that I wrote about Johnny Cash as well. So, and that's the album cover is in front of the Storytellers Museum in Bon Aqua, Tennessee.
Wow. I love when like the reason why things are on something, because sometimes they seem so random, like why? Right. And then you find out and you're like, perfect sense. I love those hidden little secrets that come up. So I ask everybody this question at the end. But before I ask you the question, I am going to, so everyone's out there, you can follow David on his tribute page and on his personal page that he does all of his singing and songwriting stuff. So that will be posted on here. So make sure you check out both of them, because I feel like there's two different sides of you. So we get like, I don't know.
Yes,
this angel and this angel. I'm going to call them both angels, but a different perspective for both. But since I am a relationship expert, everything I do has to kind of go around that. It's just who I am in my core. I love very deeply is in this moment right now, as we sit here today in David's world, what does love mean to you?
What does love mean to me? Love means to me that it's unconditional. That that you love through the good times and the bad times, the hard times, and the times you think you're never going to be able to love again. But then you find ways to continue to love. I think love. And this is going to sound like a song, but when you love someone, I think you can actually really help heal that person through love. And sometimes it's tough love. Sometimes it's not the kind of love you think it is until you get through that pain or through that healing process. But long answer to your short question, but that's what love is to me.
I love that. And I'm telling you, David, I love that question because it is completely different for each person. And sometimes I'll get a message being like, God, I asked myself that question the next day. And it was the first thing that came to my mind was completely different than what I told you. And I'm like, that's what's so great about love. It's like moving, it's fluid. It's kind of like if you ask me what song I love, you never know what you're going to get. So I say, ask yourself that.
That's right. Yeah.
Ask yourself that a couple times randomly and see what comes out of your mouth. But thank you so much for sharing your time and your heart and just who you are with us today. And I'm excited. Now I got to go check out all these albums. I got to look at the covers. I got to see that's what he was talking about. And what those words mean to him. So thank you so much. And to everybody else that is out there, remember, love hard, love pure, and love true. Until we see you next time. Take care.